The Final Age. Chapter 1. Genesis of Hope. The planet Zalora had once been a marvel of the galaxy, a shining example of advanced civilization and scientific prowess. Its cities stretched across vast landscapes, powered by technologies that seemed to touch the stars themselves. The Zalorians, the intelligent species that called this world home, had long mastered the secrets of the universe, exploring distant realms of knowledge and achievement. They were a species of peace and progress, revered for their intellect and their deep respect for the balance of life. Zalora was a world full of life. Its skies glittered with constellations, its oceans teemed with vibrant marine life, and its fields were green with crops that flourished under its brilliant sun. The people of Zalora lived in harmony with their cities interwoven with nature, their technology symbiotic with the planet's ecosystem. But, as is often the case with great civilizations, the shadows of decline crept in slowly, unnoticed at first, until it was too late to reverse the course. It began with the dimming of their sun. Zalora's star, once a bright beacon in the sky, began to weaken. Its light faded gradually, and with it, the warmth that nourished the planet. The Zalorians had the knowledge to detect it early, but they underestimated the magnitude of the problem. The star's energy began to falter, and the very climate of Zalora began to shift in ways no one could have predicted. The temperature dropped, storms grew more violent, and the once thriving ecosystems began to wither. Soon, the atmosphere started to thin. What was once a breathable and stable environment became increasingly hostile, and the land began to suffer. The oceans that had once supported rich marine life receded, leaving behind barren shores. The air became thin and suffocating, and the agricultural systems they had relied on for millennia began to fail, despite their incredible technological prowess. The Zalorians were powerless to stop the gradual demise of their world. For centuries, they had tried everything. They attempted geoengineering to fix their atmosphere, launching massive projects to reignite their sun using artificial means, and they devised elaborate systems to try to stabilize their climate. Yet, every effort ended in failure. The more they tried, the more they realized that their once thriving world was slipping away beyond their control. The Zalorians, faced with the unavoidable truth that their planet was dying, began to look for other solutions. The Council of Elders, the most revered group of scholars and leaders, convened to discuss their dwindling options. For many, it was an unthinkable decision. The planet they had known and loved for countless millennia was lost, and with it, their future. We cannot save Zalora. The Elder Council agreed in their final, grim deliberations. But perhaps we can save what remains of us. And so, they hatched a Plan 1 that would carry the Zalorian legacy beyond the stars. The solution, though radical, was their final hope. They would not focus on saving the planet itself, but on ensuring the survival of their species through a genetic legacy that could endure. They would create two beings, one male and one female, who would carry the genetic inheritance of the Zalorians, designed to adapt to and survive on a distant world. This world, which the Zalorians had discovered long ago through their deep space explorations, was called Eridu. It was a planet in another star system, far from Zalora. Unlike their homeworld, Eridu was abundant in water, its skies blue and its terrain rich with potential for life. However, it was not suitable for the Zalorians. Their fragile bodies would not survive its thick, oxygen-rich atmosphere. Thus, the elders decided to create the first modified Zalorians, a male and a female who would have the strength to endure Eridu's harsh environment. Their bodies would be engineered to withstand its dense atmosphere and volatile climate. Ardin, the male, would be the first of his kind, carrying the essence of the Zalorian intellect, their scientific acumen, and their wisdom. Elara, the female, would be his counterpart, crafted from the same DNA but modified to survive and thrive on Eridu. These two beings would carry the genetic code of their dying civilization, ensuring that Zalora's legacy would continue even after its destruction. They would be born not as natural beings, but as engineered hope, the last chance to ensure that Zalora's culture, knowledge, and civilization would live on in another form, on another planet. As the days passed, the scientific teams worked tirelessly to bring Ardin and Elara into existence. The process was delicate and precise, and every decision they made was weighted with the knowledge that the survival of their people rested upon these two individuals. It took many years to perfect the DNA modification process, but finally they were ready. Ardin and Elara were not born as the Zalorians had once been. They were created, their bodies designed and engineered with advanced genetic technology. They were the first of their kind, the last hope for a dying species. As Ardin opened his eyes for the first time, a sense of purpose filled him. He knew, instinctively, that he was meant to carry the legacy of Zalora. His body was strong, his mind sharp. He was the culmination of generations of knowledge and culture, a beacon of hope for the future. He was not a man born of nature's slow, patient hand, but a creation of necessity, born from the ashes of a dying world. Elara too opened her eyes, her body finely tuned to survive the atmosphere of Eridu. She was beautiful, crafted with a sense of grace and resilience, the perfect counterpart to Ardin. Together, they were the beginning of something new, a new chapter for the Zalorian species, one that would unfold on a distant world. As part of their comprehensive training, Ardin and Elara were subjected to simulations designed to prepare them for the challenges they would face on Eridu, a world teeming with life. Among the most vital aspects of their training were simulations that focused on how to interact with the ancient creatures that had once roamed Terra, the planet they had known of through their studies but had never set foot on. The neural interface connected them to simulations so real that they could feel the weight of Terra's dense atmosphere and hear the distant calls of animals in the wild. The training placed them in Terra's untamed landscapes, where they encountered towering beasts with sharp teeth and claws, much like the creatures that once dominated Terra's forests, plains, and rivers. These animals were not like those Ardin and Elara had known. They were wild, unpredictable, and capable of great danger. In these simulations, Ardin and Elara learned to recognize the behavior of these creatures, how to understand their patterns, how to move through dense, hostile environments without attracting attention. They trained on how to assess the situation quickly, determining when a creature was simply curious or when it was preparing to hunt. The simulations varied in intensity, with some animals requiring swift action to avoid, while others presented an opportunity for coexistence or peaceful observation. Ardin and Elara also practiced using tools and strategies to protect themselves when necessary. But their training also emphasized respect for the natural order of Terra. They learned that while survival often required caution, it was also essential to understand the creature's behaviors, to know when to retreat and when to adapt to their environment. This deep understanding was vital not just for their safety, but for the future of the new world they were destined to protect. These intense simulations, designed to mirror the unpredictable and dangerous creatures of Terra, were an essential part of their preparation. They weren't just learning to survive, they were learning to thrive in a new world, to coexist with its ancient inhabitants, and to ensure the survival of life on Eridu. The elders gathered in the quiet observation chamber, watching as the first of their modified children stepped forward into a new life. Their faces were filled with both sadness and hope, for they knew the truth. Zalora was dying, but these two, Ardin and Elara, would carry the legacy forward. The decision was made. Project Genesis was no longer just an idea. It was their last chance to survive, and so, Ardin and Elara would embark on a journey to Eridu, a journey that would carry the weight of their people's history, their culture, and their very survival. They would be the first to step onto a new world, to plant the seeds of life on a distant planet, and to ensure that Zalora's legacy would never fade.